Willkommen bei Casual Outlaws. Dieses Mal diskutieren wir Bloodsong von Anthony Ryan. Bürger, bitte nimm es weg.
Something in German, I guess.
Yeah. We did Spanish last week. We're going to do German this week.
Okay. So, you asked me to talk about Raven Shadows, what it sounds like?
Yeah. Or
Bloodsong. Yeah.
Raven
which
Shadow
is
is the series.
first book of the Raven Shadow series. Okay. Yeah, so we read Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. This is the first book, like I said, in the Raven Shadow trilogy. This features our main character as being Valen Alsona. It's all told in sort of like a flashbacky kind of way until it comes towards the end where we get brought to current events. Valen is a member of the Sixth Order, which is a religious sect of his country state. Both state and church have been made kind of one, especially after a war that predates our main character, with the current king that he interacts with, where sort of church and faith become one. It basically features him from a young boy when his dad forces him to join the religious sect, to sort of his adulthood, where he's sort of a full-blown member of this religious order. He has a special gift called the Blood Song.
Hence the title of the book.
Hence the title of the book. It's kind of like a knack where it sort of guides his actions. It's something that's kind of like in the back of his head.
Like a sixth sense type thing?
Yeah. Or like a magic extra conscious. Yeah. Other people have different kinds of knacks in this universe. This, like, it sort of borders on the realm of magic, which is expressly forbidden by the tenets of his faith for the most part, or at least that's sort of the public face of it. We find out that there is a Seventh Order that specializes only in magic-like things.
Supposedly a Seventh Order.
No,
did they really? I don't remember if they really confirmed that it did in fact exist, but like they definitely alluded to it
when he talked with his teacher before he went to do the war. The guy's like, yeah, no, and the Seventh Order has this prophecy that we find the face of our enemy when the king sends his army to fight under the desert sun, something like that. I think that's a quote. But basically, it's kind of an introduction to sort of the main arc of the whole story. This whole thing, it's sort of like shows us the structure of this world, sort of how the faith and the different orders within it act, sort of handles some religious persecution ideas, and is about, I guess I should say the Sixth Order that he's in is kind of like a Spartan order, or is literally kind of like a Spartan order, where they are the warfare arm of their church. There's like a healing arm of the church as well, a kind of like the Inquisition from the last book that we read for the church, who are in charge of like looking for heretics and getting rid of people who don't follow the faith in their borders. And then the other three are kind of very loosely talked about.
Not really touched on.
Yeah, like they're kind of like researchy guilds or self-meditation, that kind of thing. But they don't do the stabbing of the people, so they don't really get focused on as much in this first book here.
Stabbing of the people.
So you asked me before we started recording how I felt about the book.
I did, yeah.
So I didn't hate it, but it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good to me. Like I think Nate said it was kind of long. It definitely felt kind of episodic because like every part is kind of just like a different part of his life, and even within like certain parts, there's a lot of time jumping just because it's covering so many years. So the book itself felt fairly episodic, and like a lot, like there was for me, there was too much filler. Like every section, every chapter had information, but between the divulging of that information, it felt like there was a lot of filler to me. And this was me listening to it at 1.5 speed. I imagine if you listened to it at normal speed, like I think Nate did, that it was probably like really just dragging on.
Can you provide an example of something that's filler?
I honestly can't remember.
I didn't feel anything was just filler. I liked the way the book progressed. You met your character, you met the corresponding characters around him, and then he's just going through life. He's dropped off at this fucking castle. Dad disappears, gets some hate for him, like, yo, fuck you, Dad. Starts learning all this cool fighting techniques and stuff, and then comes to realize he's got this power or this force within him.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly through the progression of the book, like learns more and more about it, little bit at a time, but uses it still effectively. I like it. I felt like,
but it definitely
was more storytelling than like actual acting and like, or not acting, action. Like there wasn't a lot of fighting really going on. When there was, it was cool, but I felt like it was all just political.
Part 4 especially.
Game of Thronesy talk.
Part 4 especially was a lot of, for me, like it was just like, all right, I had with parts 1, 2, and 3, like I was focused, I could listen to all of it. When it came down to like part 4, several times, just like with the Blade itself, I found myself like, oh shit, I gotta rewind. I tuned out for some reason or another.
Like during the plague thing?
During the plague thing, all the just basically the dialogue that happened between him and multiple different people in that city they were holding. Like I just kept tuning out for some reason. And then I felt I had to jump back like 2 chapters at one point and go back into it. And I was like, oh shit, I don't know how I missed all this. It was like I had to like stop what I was doing and just like actually sit there and just listen.
I did that when what's his name put the poison in that chick's drink or whatever. Didn't he like make her like a cocktail or whatever?
In part 4, when he
with the girlfriend, yeah.
So he could just basically abandon her because the agreement.
Yeah, I mean, that part was set up. I think where you say filler, I think that's where like real sort of character work is being done.
The thing is, there's a lot of characters that like I find I really don't care about. Like all of his like close friends and his like brotherhood stuff, like there's like 2 that I really care about, and all the others I'm like, eh.
I mean, I do feel the same way. I do think that is a weak point of this book, is that like other than Bacchus and Francis, like, and the one guy that went to go join the Green People, whose name I've forgotten just now because he wasn't
the one who ended up with the Stella chick.
Yeah, like other than those 3, like his other brothers, like they weren't as impactful to me. Like they didn't. It's kind of like an issue that you run into a lot of times when you run into like 5 or 7-man bands where there's only like 3 characters that are really important to the main character, and it kind of replaces the 3 that we think are important, like the Bacchus and the green dude who runs away, and replaces the green dude with Francis.
Francis?
To sort
Frentis,
what
you mean?
What?
You say Francis, but his name is Frentis?
Frentis.
Is it? I keep hearing Francis. I don't know why I said that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually enjoyed the book. I enjoyed it more than the last book.
I'll give you that. It's definitely more enjoyable.
See, to me, this is a better version of Red Rising to me. Like,
I definitely
would not say that.
I 100% would.
What I would say is that it definitely reminded me of Red Rising, but it also reminded me a whole lot of Game of Thrones, especially in the main character. Like the main character felt very much like Jon Snow to me, and the Order felt kind of sort of like a Night's Watch to me.
Yeah, I can see that illusion.
Like he gets, because like remember when Jon Snow gets to Castle Black and they're all doing all the training, he's really good. He's like instinctually good with the sword. This guy instinctually good with the sword and all that stuff. He's kind of showing people. Is Jon
Snow instinctually good with the sword?
He's had the training. It's a little different.
He's considered to be the better sword fighter of the than I was.
Yeah, he's better
Yeah.
than his siblings, and that
Yeah.
creates a
And
character with him.
he definitely takes on a role of kind of like mentor and trying to help, just a lot like this guy does, especially with
Right, he
Frentis.
mentors Frentis and picks him up.
Yeah.
So like I
But-
definitely got a whole lot of that
just
right
vibes.
there.
Yeah. So what I mean by when I say it's like a better version of it is like I think the characters are better, and like I think the storytelling is better. Like instead of just having kids, like all the kids in Red Rising to me were a little bit one note. Like everybody here breathed a little bit more. They felt a little bit more real and grounded in reality, rather than like I'm the magical golden child. I'm gonna go rape a girl, and now we fight because you're the bad guy and we're doing this Harry Potter thing. Like, there's nothing specifically in this book that definitely reminds me of other books. The way that Red Rising
but it does
definitely
remind me of another story of a guy's following an order, a guy gets a power, guy finds out his order's fake or false.
Yeah, so
guy
it is
starts to want to rebel.
it is a little bit generic, but it doesn't directly feel like anything else to me. The way that Red Rising definitely felt like Ender's Game, Harry Potter, and whatever the other book I said
Yeah,
was.
I agree. I feel like it was still different.
I felt like it was wholly made its own thing rather than sort of being an amalgamation of
Yeah.
other parts. Like you can say
Maybe.
it's a little generic. I'll 100% concede. I don't think that this book is like the best book out there.
Yeah.
It's the new hot shit. Nobody's ever done this before.
Yeah, I just think it's done. I think it's just a lot more grounded, and I feel like it breathes and gets on its own feet. Like the politics of the world feels real. Like the whole thing with like letters of passage starting like a an inter-country war. Like, oh, that's the kind of like monotonous bureaucrat work that I think really like flushes out a world and makes it feel more real.
I liked it. I thought the whole world growth, character growth.
I won't say
There's-
no to trying the second book in the series, just because this one, like for the most part, I found things interesting. It's just I'm hoping that in the second book, it kind of
a lot more
pounces.
people die.
Well,
there's more fighting.
pounces. No, it pounces on a lot more of the interesting things that were set up in the first book,
Mhm.
and like goes into them instead of being like, "Hey, this is a thing. Let's ignore that for a little bit and come back later on in part 3 with it."
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this book where it's just
Yeah.
like I'm gonna
It's a
touch you
bummer.
with this idea, and we're gonna come back to it a little bit later, like with the rock that like takes him back to talk to one of the children of the forest, if we want to make a Game of Thrones reference,
Yeah.
where they give him like a new name. I do like it. It's
The hope
just this little
killer.
thing, yeah, and he gets a little bit more information. It's like, ooh, spooky. It's atmospheric, right? And then he goes to the other end of the continent where he talks to the
Stella.
jungle people.
Yeah.
No, the other
Um,
guy, the Lonak guy, and he's like, "What's your name?" And he gives him his name, and it's like, "That's not your name." When like earlier in the book, he was given like this new name that's like supposed to be his name. Like
Mhm.
it's just like little touches of things that it's definitely setting up for the future. That don't necessarily like that name part like kind of pays off a little bit, but it isn't really satisfactory. Like it's definitely something that feels like that's for later. We just touched on it a little bit.
When he went and met with the forest people, the big monster thing, was that supposed to be a werewolf?
No, I think it's just like a big mystical cat, like a magic cat thing. Cat.
Yeah, but was it supposed to be like a werewolf type thing? Like
No, because it
I
doesn't
got the
turn into a
sense-
person.
I thought it was human like or something.
Wait, are you talking
Mm.
about the thing that breaks his ribs and then he gets healed?
Yeah, they
but
take him.
Yeah,
his buddy
it's
takes him back
basically
to
a
the
it's
town
basically
and
a
all that
giant
shit.
snow leopard, is what it is.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just a giant snow cat.
I don't know why, but the entire time I was listening, I was like, okay, is this like some fucking?
Oh, like as soon as you said that, I was
Xenomorph?
like, did I completely blank out on a certain part of the book and didn't notice?
Yeah, no, like I know what you mean where it can be confusing because the
Like, I
girl
got
can
the
control
sense-
people whenever
Yeah.
she touches them, and it isn't really expressly stated that she can control other things with her power, like so it
Yeah,
could
at
seem like
first
it's
I was like, okay, so this is a guy whose blood song got out of control and he turned into this.
no,
beast?
it's nothing that absurd.
But it could
That's
be.
what hey man, like I could dream. I want
Yeah.
some deadly cat guys.
I love werewolves. Give
What
me
I
a
think-
werecat.
I still want to compare it to Red Rising a little bit. In like, what I like about it that Red Rising didn't do for me is that like our main character is both challenged and challenges the world he lives in while still being a part of it. Where like the main character in Red Rising is just like fucking burn it all down. It's like
Yeah,
very
but-
one note. Like
But the time comparison, like this book jumps time quite a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that I
but-
definitely had issue
Right, so
with,
that-
like the amount of time that
But
just
no, but I think-
jumps around.
With the time
think
jump,
that-
I think the time jump's appropriate. I think. The
Yeah,
time
no,
jump's
I think-
appropriate for the book, but like you can't let a character develop that's only taking place in a smaller period of time compared to
in a
book,
span
right?
of 1 to 2 years.
right, but that's sort of exactly what I'm saying. Like I think it works better here because of our framing device, the way we give these characters, like we watch these characters grow through a period of time.
Yeah.
I think that the characters feel better versus Red Rising, where, like I said, like the characters, they're just kind of fully formed people, and we kind of have to figure out if they're good. Like I like the way that the main character is both challenged and a part of like he challenges the religion in some ways. Like he works to free these the heretics or the non-faithful who are part of, who were
Deniers.
the deniers.
Deniers.
Yeah, like he kind of sells himself to the king of the book to help these deniers.
Definitely,
even though
the king's a dick.
yeah, but like in like a really good way. Like he's doing exactly what like a good king would do in a sense. Like he's trying to cement his legacy, and he's trying to keep and profit his country, right? Like the screws that he turns are ones that he has as a king, and it feels very believable. It isn't our bad guy, our like sort of antagonist throughout this whole thing isn't just sort of like an unknown power structure we're told is bad. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, we get to see the badness
I'm
kind
still a
of of the
little-
character.
I'm a little disappointed that the prologue didn't end with like record scratch, and it's like, how did I get myself here? And because it does start in the future, then jumps to the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like it as a framing device. I like the
Oh no, it's definitely
Uh-oh.
it's definitely a good storytelling device. It's just that I didn't go into the book expecting it to be in 4 parts, and each part starting with another jump back into the present.
I don't know. I like that because it's a very good way of grounding the time skip. Like it doesn't say like
It's not
and
as
then
jarring.
3 years later. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's not as jarring.
and I like that. I like the way that we see that the story he's giving the historian, Venir.
Yep.
Venrir. I like that the story he's giving him isn't the full story, but we're kind of getting the full story. But we can kind of see where the lies he's giving to the historian are. Like I like those. I like those little bits and pieces. I like how it could be sort of an unreliable narrator, or we see him as an unreliable narrator of history, but we kind of get this full picture of the story. So it feels very interesting to me. I like it.
Regarding going back to mentioning how there was a lot of characters that are kind of just like, I don't care about them. They're kind of forgettable.
Dude, there were
I
so many
couldn't-
characters that I just
name them.
forgot about.
I can't name them. Like, I think there should have been at least a few chapters that were in their point of view, so that maybe we got a little bit more understanding of who they were.
But
if they're
No,
gonna
I don't
be,
think so, because like Dresden Files doesn't do that at all. Right?
Yeah, like we're only following a single narrator at this point, which is our main character.
I'm not saying that all books should do this. I was just like, for some of these characters, like I would like to know more about them for me to be able to care about them.
Well, I think it's because of the time jumps.
Yeah.
That part
Yeah.
hurts it, right? Because you can't spend the time with certain characters in those time periods that they show up.
And the book, and the story's only being told really from this one perspective, from Valen's perspective. It wouldn't make sense within the rules of the story to follow these other people. Because
I know. It's just
him telling the history.
Yeah, it's just there needed to be some kind of device to kind of give me more on the other characters that they made it seem like we should care about, but really we
Honestly,
really don't want to.
I didn't care about a lot of the characters either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one of the problems I had with Valen was the fact that like every single time I heard his fucking name, all I could think of was Knights of the Old Republic. because there's a big enemy in the game called Valen.
I couldn't track some of these names. Like I'd forget who was who sometimes because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what the fuck was this guy's name?
I texted Nate and I was like, these fucking fantasy names are fucking
Dude.
killing me right now.
I do really like the narrator, though. I don't know. I like his.
It was all right. For me,
Yeah.
again, a little bit
I like the
slow,
narrator.
but it wasn't
Yeah,
like
but you're weird. You're
it
listening to
wasn't the
everything
blade
else.
itself slow though. So yeah, this one I was just doing 1.5.
I like this guy a lot. Like I like his voice. I think it's very nice. I like that his voice is for the tone of the book being a little bit more of that somber kind of storytelling and like it's about loss a little bit. I do like his sort of like I do like his whole tone, the way he tells the story. It also feels very Spartan, like it feels like it kind of belongs to Elsana. The only thing that because the voice feels like it belongs to Elsana, it feels weird coming out of Vernier's voice because he's sort of
Who's Elsana?
Valen Elsana,
Valen.
Sorna,
Sorna?
Elsorna. I know I can't,
Elsorna?
but I can't do the Elsorna or whatever it is. I just call him Sana.
I was
It does
like,
feel
is
a
there
little-
another character I missed?
No,
Probably.
it just feels a little bit weird coming out of Vernier, who's like this sort of pomp kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add. It's fine. I enjoyed the
Yeah,
book.
like this
don't
is
know.
gonna be our shortest.
I don't know if
Sure.
I'm like, I'm personally like, if someone chose the next book, I'd be cool with it, but it's not a book I would actually choose, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Judging it on its own, it's like
I feel like parts of it were exciting, but parts of the book were very, even in the beginning, like setting up for the second book.
Like I totally,
but
get
it
the
definitely
whole
it
setup
definitely
book
felt like
for
a book that
trilogy,
was setting up a lot more that it wasn't
Yeah.
gonna finish.
but what it was setting up didn't excite me enough to want to like read the next book.
Yeah. Oh well, although with the ending that you still haven't gotten,
Yeah,
that
true.
you
Yeah.
might change your opinion there
I haven't
because
listened to
that
45
ending
minutes
was
of
a
the
little was actually kind of cool, but like at the same time, it's still like just the rest of it. It's like, wait, is the second book going to be the same way, where it's like a whole lot of little bits of interesting stuff for me, and then one really big good part at the end?
Yeah, I don't know. That ending part is really cool to me because it is very spooky. I don't know if you're gonna try and finish it, Chris. Yes, no.
Yeah, I'll finish it. I got like 45 minutes, so I mean, you
Well,
guys
I
want
mean,
you guys can talk about it. It's fine. It's my fault.
yeah,
for
I
Okay.
mean, it's
finishing it.
part of the so.
Yeah.
Burger, I'll let you take it then.
Sure. So the ending part of the book is
Oh
it
wait, we
happens
should
right-
before we that we
it's
should
gonna be
preface-
spoilers.
Yeah, well, not just that, but the whole prefacing the whole thing that remember in the book he mentions about twice up until the point that you're at that there's a familiar voice he hears with certain people before he kills them.
Mhm.
Do you recall that?
Mhm.
Okay, now you can continue, Burger.
Okay. So the ending part of the book, Valen, it's before he gets captured and taken to the Emperor's dungeons. He before he hands himself over to the enemy army, his brother, I want to say Bacchus, is that right? Barcus, jumps off the boat and swims to shore because he's the enemy, right? And so we find out that actually Bacchus during the trial of the winter, trial of
One of the
survival?
trials.
Yeah, one of the trials died in the
Well,
snow.
Yeah, the one where he found the other guy dead.
Yeah. And so what happens is like if you have a lot of spite in this world, like these things that dwell in the beyond, they're like these nefarious spirits.
The one who waits.
Yeah, the one who waits, they'll like take your body. And they'll like bring you back to life and they'll like basically haunt you. Or they'll take possession of your body. And like you're still kind of there, the parts of you are, but then there are other parts that aren't. So, like, we learned that Bacchus intentionally killed the one dude at the top of the keep in order to keep him silent because he was breaking free of the mind control. And it's that, like, Valen's whole religion is kind of built on some superstitious and some falsehoods that are part of facts. Like, this is something that I really like about.
Actually, to clarify though, so because it wasn't very clear when he's explaining what happened to Barkus. It didn't necessarily say that Barkus died, but he was close to death. And I think he mentioned that when individuals are close to death or when they are experiencing malice, that's when they're very susceptible to being taken over.
Well, it's a combination of both, I think. Because so like it's like as you're dying, as your soul would like leave your body to go to like this nether realm, like where the departed is, you're sort of like opening a tunnel for these things that dwell in the darkness to crawl back out and take over your body.
So he didn't necessarily, his body didn't actually die, but it was close enough to it that this thing was able to take over.
Yeah, I would say, yeah,
He's a
but
zombie.
well, like basically they're saying like, so if we look at the examples in the city, right, with the helper, he got bludgeoned on the head, his heart had stopped for a little bit, but then he recovered. I'm assuming that you die a little bit, like even if it's only kind of, and then you're sort of resuscitated as this thing that like this soul repossesses you.
Yeah. Although, but the one-eyed guy, I don't recall anyone mentioning him dying. He got
he got stabbed in the eye, and then it got infected, and then he almost died. And then he got possessed. So like anytime we see a character that we think dies and then but really doesn't sort of comes back, like it's sort of foreshadowing that they've been taken by one of these departed people.
I'm kind of getting Flatliners vibes right now.
Okay, so like I know what movie that is, but like you have got to be the only person who's ever seen it
or quoted it or made a
quoted,
reference to it.
Yeah,
I don't know how you guys.
And this book came
just
out before
excuse
Flatliners
yourself.
anyway. Yeah, but like what I like is that it's like I like that
I'm sorry, hold on. I was thinking of the wrong movie. It's not Flatliners.
Isn't that the one with the Inception chick? I forget her name.
No. I think that was the remake for Flatliners, but I'm thinking of it's a Michael J. Fox movie that was directed by the guy who did Lord of the Rings, whose name is escaping me right now.
Well, that's Peter Jackson who made Lord of the Rings.
I knew it was Peter something, but
I don't know this other movie with Michael J. Fox that you're referring to.
I'm trying to remember what the name is, but basically
You've completely derailed this whole conversation, you piece
great.
of shit.
But continue. It'll hit me. I'll find it.
Oh, actually, it
doesn't
remind me of that movie, but I don't know what it does. So let's just continue talking about what it doesn't remind me of.
You were just so embarrassed that you thought of Flatliners, whatever. Anyway, it's not important.
Wrong movie.
People die when they're close to death. They can get possessed. Continue.
What I like is that like the way superstitions build up, or like that they have. I like the like as time progresses, the stuff like builds up and it sort of forms this whole religion. And like it feels like a very realistic origin story of the religion that El Sorna's in. Like it's like, oh fuck, okay, so I can see how all this stuff happened, like where their confusion is. It's like it gets my mind going. It's like, okay, so here's all these little other things that we got to build off of based upon what we've seen previously. Like Francis I keep saying Francis. Anyway, got stabbed, right? And he has the thing on, like he has all the scars on his chest, so like he's probably possessed. So that's going to be something that comes up later on in the story. And
well, would the blood song be able to tell Valen whether or not somebody is possessed or not?
Yeah, that's what he was saying at the end of the book.
Because well, in the end of the book, he uses a blood song to reach out to Francis, and he basically
and he sees that Francis is struggling with the scars on his chest. That's
he's also like he's been captured, I think, right?
Yeah, and he's been captured and put on a ship, and then like his scars are burning him. So to me, this tells me two things: like okay, so he's probably possessed, and then the whole thing, with him talking about the guy who got killed in the tower. The other religion guy, like because he was able to throw off the psychic possession. It seems like the next parts of the book is going to be how Valen tries to help Francis regain his own body and throw off.
Saying Francis.
Where's Francis? I don't. I can't remember. Francis is
Francis
stuck
always
here right
missing?
now. It's
Deep in
stuck
your
in here
head.
right now.
Deep
Yeah,
in your
Prentice.
head.
it is. Francis is renting free space in my head right now. I can't get it out of there.
But the movie I was thinking of is The Frighteners.
Nobody
Okay, I
cares.
haven't seen it.
Pretty good. You should see it.
Okay.
About Michael J. Fox and ghosts and possessions.
So what about that ending did you say was like spooky? Just him learning that
Well,
like,
the fact
oh,
that
shit,
the one who
this-
waits, he his last line is, what was it? I want, like, looking at your face now, I wonder what it'd be like when, it's someone that you really care about.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like it's that death isn't the thing that he thinks it is. Like he thinks he would join the departed who are sort of form this like consciousness that guides his people. And it's like, oh no, wait, hell is this place, or like death is just this place where souls are like trapped and people are crawling in and out of it. Like things that exist in your afterlife that are benevolent and want to hurt you, to me is very spooky. Like and that it can be literally anybody who's had this sort of near-death experience. And you don't necessarily know.
it could
who's
even be
gonna-
him.
Okay.
I know it's
No.
not because you've read the books.
Yeah. And I don't think that there's anything in this first book that would make you think it is him.
Well, when he was like
Well,
bleeding
he's
to death.
definitely almost died a couple times in this
Yeah,
book.
he's definitely gotten fucked
He's-
up.
He's been messed up, but he hasn't nearly died at any point.
Wasn't there a point where they had to?
I
give
guess
him a
he did
drug
get
where
poisoned that one
basically had
time. No,
to
you're
sweat
right.
A
Yeah.
bunch of blood.
He was
Yeah,
he's basically
that's a really
sweating
cool-
blood.
That's a really cool fantasy thing to me. Is like, oh, we have this thing that's gonna seep the poison out of your body, but to do that, the blood is literally
Blood's
gonna
gonna come out of every
the blood
pore.
carry the poison outside of your body. I don't know. That's a cool little fantasy thing to me. Feels very metal. So
I don't know.
guess-
I don't know why the whole time while reading this, I just like I wanted to picture, probably because I've been playing WoW. I wanted to picture Valen as like a fucking fuck you guys. Both of you with your fucking
Face palms.
face wipes.
But I wanted to picture him
like
as
like this Dark Knight. You know, he's got this blood song. He's always bleeding
I
blood,
think he
Has
would
he
be
Dark
more
Knight?
like
sweating blood.
No way.
I don't know.
Not even
he
close.
seems more like an Anduin kind of type to me.
Yeah.
I don't know
or
what you
he's
mean.
more like
Eh.
and no, maybe even a hunter, considering he has his little fucking hellhound.
His wolf thing.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
doesn't go
It's just
around
the
with
blood.
a whole lot.
How cool is the dog? Anyway,
I like the dog.
I'm sad that the dog dies, but
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was sadder when Pax died.
Pax and Alabanas. I was sadder when Pax died. The dog was cool though.
Yeah.
Hey, he killed his buddies. Now you're his pack leader.
Yeah.
Okay, I can get behind that.
I think it's a cool storytelling device. So, like, I don't know, just all these little things. I like them. They're all
Is that
they're all
Lucy?
interesting together.
What was that?
Is that Lucy? I thought you were petting one of the dogs right now.
He's just rubbing his penis.
This dead air was brought to you by Andy. I don't know.
But
I would.
I enjoyed the book. I liked it.
Yeah, I can wholeheartedly like. This wouldn't be like my introductory series to like a fantasy or anything like that. This is something where it's like, hey, I need a new fantasy series. You got any recommendations? So like, okay, well, have you read Blood Song?
Give this
And
a
it's, and it's like, this is a good one. It's very solid.
The other series that you mentioned before when you were picking this one, is that one similar in that you would kind of throw it as kind of like, oh, here's another fantasy series, but not as an introduction?
I would say it's like, hey, do you want to read something a little bit more absurd? Then
Absurd?
I would go. It's Ninja Wizards. I don't know how to explain it other than that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would definitely say this is not a book you would recommend to like a new fantasy reader,
Yeah.
right?
No, this is like, I need another series. It's like, oh, and I look through my history. It's like, oh, have you read this series? No, check it out. I think it's very solid. I really like the voice actor. I don't, if you know that you like Game of Thrones, I think you'll have fun with this book.
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
I like how in the book there were a few times, like when they were going to find their brother, and they went and killed like
One
all
Eye?
those guys. Yeah, when they went to go kill One Eye and his crew. I love how there's parts in the book where he like conflict hasn't started yet, but when it does, the book's just like, so he lopped off his hand. Just and you're just like, where'd that come from?
Oh yeah, it's like shit. When shit starts, shit definitely starts in this book. Like I do
A
like
lot
the
of
combat a lot.
dismembering going around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
I like how it goes from 0 to 100, and it gives you that sense of, yo, this guy's a good swordsman.
Yeah,
Very
and I
good.
like how it builds up on it, sort of comparing like people who don't dedicate their lives to. It's
Who
like,
were the?
Yeah.
well,
they
you were out drinking
talking
with
about-
wenches. I was studying the blade.
While you were getting the pox,
I was studying
I
the
was
blade.
sharpening my sword.
There was a culture they mentioned in the book. Valerian. Yeah, the type of the
The ones that built the
Yeah, like the
mastered iron.
Smiths.
yeah, like I don't know if it was because I was listening to it at the speed that I was, or if it was actually pronounced the same exact way as Valerian in Game of Thrones.
Well, Valerian's a very popular word
Yeah,
used in
it's
a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
definitely
fiction.
is. I was like, holy shit, dude. They're talking about the Smiths that they used and all that stuff, and it's like this feels like they're just.
It doesn't say
cool.
anything about the Valerians being like craftsmen or anything like that
I
specifically.
think it
Yeah,
did.
it does. It says they were the ones that mastered iron first.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I don't remember that. I just remember the one chick at the like Jade Emperor, or I don't know, the Asian character people, the Trading Empire, I think they call. She's from the Valerian Empire, and she's goes in and wants to start a bunch of shit.
Because
She appears up more in the later books.
Spoilers.
It's not really a spoiler. I
You
just
haven't
say
even
this
fucking
character comes
finished the
back
book,
later.
so everything's spoilers.
Yeah.
It's 45 minutes. It's not a huge
I think
amount.
Hey man, the last like 5 minutes of the third Warden Man book like held so much in it, man. What do you mean?
I can't even remember what the
It's a
last-
literal cliffhanger.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Good book.
That was a short episode.
You know what? I do want to say, I felt the most drawn in, on the whole dialogue and the description of when they were in the forge, like making their swords with that guy. Dude, I loved that part. I was like,
Oh,
fucking get that
boring.
steel smelted.
so
I
boring.
thought it was awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
The
I like that part
I
too.
liked. What I liked about it is that it did more to give us information on the character of Barkus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like they didn't do that really for anyone else, and it was like, God damn it.
well, yeah, because he's not him.
Yeah. I don't know.
Now, if I read the second book and it starts getting too descriptive about
You're gonna be
people,
like,
I'm going to be
"Fuck."
like, motherfucker, he's possessed.
The book mostly just follows
Helps.
directly from Valen from this point, really, because we've sort
Well,
of
he's the main character, so
well, yeah, but we've reached the present day with Vernier, right?
Dude, you know what pissed me off too?
Hmm.
How come Valen, he keeps getting all this cool shit? Dude, he gets this fucking sword and like
he just gives it away.
gives it away. He
doesn't
fucking
believe in,
gets like this
It's the blue stone.
$1 billion blue stone. He's just
He's
like, you get back here in before 25 days so you can have it. Like,
Yeah, but like in terms of like him being a
Well, that was the
celibate
other
warrior
thing-
monk,
Yeah, that
it
was the
feels
other thing
very in
that-
character.
Yeah, it's
That
like
was the other thing that
I mean,
reminded me of Jon Snow. Is
they
that,
all
like Jon
steal.
Snow frequently, like people offer him things. He's like, nah, I got the Night's Watch. I swore, my oath and shit.
the
Yeah.
only
Do
thing is their thievery is a thing within the
I
Sixth
like
Order,
that. Yeah.
right?
I
So
did like
it,
that.
it makes sense, but also doesn't make sense because he does talk about like how they all have like are well fed and have nice clothes and like this because they steal shit all the time. And especially when Frentis joined them before he became a brother, right?
Tops.
Yeah.
They used him to steal shit all the time.
All the time.
Right, well, just because you have like a lot of food during mealtime doesn't mean you don't want snacks outside of it. It doesn't.
Talking about,
that guy's fruit
clothing and
snack.
stuff like that. It's just not that it makes like for the character of Valen, it makes more sense maybe compared to the other brothers, right? But yeah, that made perfect sense to me why he wouldn't like give a shit about that stuff because he's not really trained to give a shit about that stuff.
Yeah, like he's a celibate. He's a warrior monk. Like the monk is like, I don't care, just save people. Like it feels very in character.
Until Sharon shows up and he's like, I gotta get that pussy.
Well,
bang.
I think him dealing with this consciousness of all those people dying for what is essentially like a gambit to like try and see if he can find the enemy of his people, like him sort of trading off life. He's like, yeah, I feel like I'll make this trade because my aspect told me to, but I'm kind of done. And I think like that's sort of his out. And I still feel like that's within character. I feel like it's earned. I don't necessarily know.
The Sixth Order, I get like Jedi vibes during the or the prequels because they help the Republic. And they're kind of like a religious group, right? And they defend, and then they get commissioned into an army, right? They commission Valen into an army and everything to lead, just like the Jedi were generals and leaders.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say there is that like it goes out of its way to sort of expressly tell you that the church and the state have been sort of made one through the king. Like they aren't entirely separate organizations, whereas like the prequel badness is that the Jedi are supposed to be independent. Like that's their whole thing. And they sort of help the force with what's supposed to be going on.
The Jedi are kind of a police force, but they get to like basically choose what they want to police.
Yeah, but they don't.
They are the keepers of the old Republic.
They're supposed to be separate, but they're not, and that's like why like Ahsoka leaves because they lost their way. That's why Qui-Gon was worried and wanted to find the Chosen One because of the Jedi has steered into this position of policing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have you been watching more of that Disney Plus Mandalorian stuff?
No, I just really like Star Wars.
You love the prequels.
I do enjoy
liking Star Wars in 2020. That is a hot take.
Yeah.
Like literally. It's not a joke.
So that's a whole entire different conversation.
So we're not picking a book because obviously we've all come to the agreement that we're going to be doing.
Well, I think you should still announce your book that you want to pick.
See, that's the thing. Like I'm there's one that I kind of want to do, but I don't know if you guys are going to like it. And also, it's very old.
You can announce it after Peace Talks.
I haven't read it in like 15 years either.
Ooh.
I want to hear it. I do want to hear this possible suggestion.
Well, actually, I've already mentioned it too. Heir to the Empire, book 1 of the Thrawn trilogy, the original Thrawn trilogy.
Speaking of Star Wars.
Yep.
Actually, that's
you know what? Since I mentioned it, I may as well I'm just gonna make it. Heir to the Empire, Thrawn trilogy.
This is a Star Wars book.
It is a Star Wars book. This is kind of the basically before the sequel trilogy came out. This like back in 2003, before
sequel trilogy came out in 1999. Dumbass.
No, that was the prequel trilogy.
Prequel. Sorry, prequel.
But this was
my bad. I wasn't paying attention. I apologize. That was on me.
Before Revenge of the Sith came out, everyone was talking about how like, man, all the actors are like in the perfect age right now to portray the characters as they are in Heir to the Empire. And everyone was like, okay, Heir to the Empire's 3 books.
Everybody. It wasn't
story,
everybody. It was a small group of nerds.
Which is what counts.
But everybody important for this.
Yeah, man. But basically, this should have been the sequel trilogy. They had it perfectly set up. There was 3 books. There was a big enemy. There was the Imperial Remnant. All of that. All the actors were the right age. They were all alive.
Remnant, you mean the First Order?
No, I mean the Imperial Remnant, and fuck you.
So this series isn't canon? Like, why are we wasting time?
Well, it's not canon anymore, unfortunately. It's
not canon then.
Unfortunately. Well, actually, a lot of the stuff from it became canon.
Did it?
Well, the name of the planet Coruscant. the character of Grand Admiral Thrawn, the Nogri, all those things came into fruition because of that book.
Is this heavy like Jedi oriented, or
It's
is
called
this?
so there's Jedi stuff, there's stuff with Leia, there's stuff with Han, there's stuff with Talon Card. I can't remember if
Does Leia
Is this-
float through this?
no, she does not.
Is this one where Luke has to go around killing clones of Palpatine? Palpatine?
No. This does involve a clone, but it does not have anything having to do with Palpatine.
Okay.
The big
Does
bad,
this
the
have
big bad
Luke
in this
having
is
a
Thrawn.
nephew that has a rage boner.
No, that's much further into the future in terms of the book series. But
Okay.
yeah, no.
But-
It's, like I said, it's been
Other than
15
that-
years since I read this book.
Ignore everything he just said. Our next book is going to be the new book from Dresden Files, Peace Talks
Peace
by Jim Butcher. It's coming out Tuesday, I think.
3 days.
15th, 15th, baby.
14.
14?
It's gonna be
Oh,
tasty. How long have we been waiting for this book?
Years.
Okay, how long have you been waiting for this book, and then how long have I been waiting for this book?
Doesn't matter.
Two
it's
different
still
time
been
frames.
Years.
Years.
What, have you been waiting for it since birth?
No, when did you read? Well, whatever. This is like an EP thing. I
I
don't
don't know.
even
It
care.
feels like
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
Why don't you stop gatekeeping, Burger?
I guess. I'm just saying, like, you don't understand waiting for books to come out, you sweet summer child.
You don't get this, how this nerd shit works, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been waiting for it for like 4 years now. 3 years.
When was Skin Game?
Yeah, but you guys didn't read it until Skin Game had already come out. I was aware, like, I had,
Wow, Skin Game came out 2014.
yeah.
Damn.
And
We didn't read until what,
Crazy.
2016?
Yeah, and I read Skin Game like the day it came out. Because I've been reading fantasy novels more. But I don't know.
Nerd.
I know, right?
That's crazy.
But I mean, yeah, at least you've had, briefcases and side jobs to kind of tide you over. And if you go
I
to
haven't. I told you, I put them off.
I
I
have.
don't-
Jim,
I'm
you
still
had
I'm
the
reading.
option, you didn't take it. Your fault.
Yeah, because I wasn't like that desperate for new stuff, and I don't like novellas or side stories. I don't like when I'm trying to wait for like the next big installment of something. Like if it's something where like I can go back to after the fact, but I don't like the like I'm not gonna give you the thing that you want, but here's a little stuff to keep you edging.
Yeah. Between the actual book and the next storyline, I made a whole book of small stories that I could have been spending my time writing the story.
Yeah, like you know how you're waiting for the next thing to happen? Well, here's some stuff that happened in the past that I didn't think was important enough for you to know until right now while you're waiting for the future thing. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Like, what the fuck?
I'll say those side stories, fantastic. Most
The
Yeah,
last
I'm
one?
reading.
Yeah.
I
Last
read.
one? The Zoo?
Oh.
Oh man.
I'm reading Side Jobs right now because I powered through this book, and just finished the one where Thomas was got disguised as the bad guy to go talk about the Oblivion War thing, which is why I brought it up before we started.
Actually, considering you made a comment about the book not being canon anymore, back to Heir to the Empire, the same author did redo the Thrawn trilogy in canon, so we can do that. I've never read that one.
Here, look up if you can even find your old Thrawn trilogy on Audible.
It is on Audible. I already looked it up.
Okay.
But yeah, no, the author, Timothy Zahn, he did do a new Thrawn trilogy that's in canon because they canonized his character Thrawn in Rebels.
Yeah. He was great.
So
It sounds really awful because it's based off of things that happened in the sequel trilogy. That would be unpleasant.
It's not based off of things that happened.
Oh,
in the
it's
sequel
not?
trilogy.
Okay.
It's
All right.
the sequel trilogy. So that's the question. Do we want to start Thrawn trilogy original or Thrawn trilogy New Coke?
I want nothing that Disney has their hands on. That's what I want.
So original.
Yeah, the
So
original. That's what I'm saying.
Thrawn trilogy
Like-
classic.
Fuck Disney. fuck Disney Plus.
So, Heir to the Empire. Then Dark Force Rising, and then The Last Command.
Well, this book's gonna be dog shit because you picked it, so probably not.
So, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command.
Well, just the first book. We haven't moved on to you have to do the first book first.
I mean, I could go real hard and just do let's do the X-Wing series and start the X-Wing series because that one's rough in the beginning.
Sounds
I'd like
rough
to read.
all around.
I want to do if I was gonna do it, I want to do like Old Republic shit. Like I
don't know if there's any really good Old Republic books though.
Bane, the Bane books.
Well, I mean, that's
Read
like
the book?
old. Yeah, I only read the first one, Path of Destruction, so I don't know if the other ones were good. But the first one, I'd say, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I just don't care anything that has to do with Lucas either. If I'm gonna be 100% honest, I like sort of like the fan made version that's come out after the fact. I'm tired of Star Wars.
You mean when Jar Jar Binks, Darth Jar Jar?
Jar.
Dude, honestly,
That would have been amazing.
I think it would have been amazing. Like that fan theory of Darth Jar Jar is honestly sounds kind of brilliant. Like no
Yeah.
joke.
Super genius. Because it makes like everything works out really well the way it's like sold. And you're like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. The only thing that would have never made any sense was midichlorians.
Yeah.
I love how midichlorians are basically never mentioned again after that one.
Yeah, Disney doesn't want to be associated with that.
No, even the prequels don't mention it ever again after that.
After the first one, yeah.
That's true.
They're like, okay, we fucked up there. Let's just forget we even said it for these other movies.
Let's go back to the fantasy. Why'd we bring science fiction into this?
I think in George Lucas's head, it's still a science fiction series. Like rather than just pretending it's like pure high fantasy, I think I don't know.
Is it high fantasy?
Yeah, high fantasy just means it's in its own world. I mean, I guess it does presuppose that it's in a galaxy far far away, but still within our universe. So I guess
And
technically,
it's also a long time ago.
yeah. So I guess technically, it would not be high fantasy, depending on some people's definition. I don't know. Nerds argue these like genre definitions all the time.
Nerd be nerdin'.
Yeah. Like I think technically the definitions for high fantasy that a lot of people use is that it's its own world. It isn't like a version of Earth per se, and like isn't specifically about like science fiction stuff.
Well, I mean, there's sound and
stuff.
space in this in Star Wars, so let's go ahead and just say it's high fantasy.
Okay, you got a point. It's a good point. It's like the one good point you've made in this whole podcast.
I've made several good points. You just don't agree with them.
Then were they
Or
good
any of
points?
them.
They're not to you from your frame of reference, but that's subjective.
But
So
my
would you guys-
frame of
would
reference
you-
is right.
Mm.
So
What were you saying, Nate? By the way, is your boom arm like new? Because I don't remember seeing that before.
Yeah, he got a new one.
Yeah.
Overly smiley for a boom arm.
yeah,
I was like, there's
Yeah.
something new in
I'm
his
just
frame.
happy I
you
got-
noticed. You
Because
just
now I
you
got
just
so
happy you
much room
noticed.
for activities over here, and my microphone's not right here.
It really is convenient just being able to just move this thing
Yeah,
around.
just moving around.
It's weird. Weird.
What were you
why
gonna say,
it was
Nate?
developed that way.
Would you guys, after you guys started hating on each other, I was just going to come in and be like, so would you guys recommend this book to anybody else?
Magic 2.0 is a god awful piece of shit.
I kind of want to pick the second book now.
If you do,
Right
I'm
now.
just going to fucking take a hiatus from this podcast
pull
for 2
you.
weeks.
If you leave, you're gone.
I do not want to read that fucking series anymore.
You're not reading anything. You're just listening.
I don't want to listen to it. I'd rather listen to the same songs on the radio over and over again than read the next installment of Magic 2.0.
Read or listen.
Bye, everybody.
I guess, yeah, we'll go. Basically, I've just been trying to push this to an hour because it's been so short otherwise.
Do an hour.
Yeah, there really wasn't much to say about this book. Like it had its premises.
It was solid. It was like its own solid little entry. It didn't.
It was a good book. I'd recommend it, to anybody that wanted to read any kind of fantasy book. It was
It's like
good
if
one.
you're looking for something to listen to or read and you got nothing, it's like, yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah, if you have nothing and you just want something new, read it.
Yeah.
Solid
All right.
7 out of 10.
We'll go ahead and call it there then.